Hello and welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Our topic of discussion today is Glacial Lake Outburst Flow. Okay. So why are we reading about Glacial Lake Outburst Flow? What is the news about it? So it is running in news because Sikkim has recently faced GLOF. This is Glacial Lake Outburst Flood. Okay, so Sikkim has recently faced GLOF and which has caused heavy destructions. Huge loss of life and property has been caused in Sikkim because of GLOF and over flooding of Teesta River and its surrounding 4 districts, that includes Gangtok, Pakyong, Namchi and Mangad. So these 4 districts have been facing loss of life and property because of this GLOF. So let us first understand what do we mean exactly by GLOF. So this is how a lake would look like in a normal condition. This will be the glacier and this will be the glacial lake. So this lake contains water from whatever is melting from this glacier. So this lake faces addition of water or freezing depending upon what is the season. This glacier is responsible for feeding this lake, and just after this lake contains unstable group of moraines. Okay, so if this lake has enough pressure to push this moraine, this lake will outburst. It will flow out and enter into the all zones which is below it. Okay, the lower portion in the valley. So what happens because of an earthquake or because of any such conditions, avalanche, earthquake or something like that, this glacier will start feeding more amount of water. So this lake basically starts to expand. Now because this lake is expanding, it has a tendency of pushing this frontal moraine and all this water will outburst, flow down to the valley regions. Okay? This is known as GLOF, Glacial Lake Outburst Flood. Okay. Now why GLOF occurs? The reasons for occurrence of GLOF can be melting of glaciers. So melting of glacier will provide more water to this glacial lake, or it can be avalanche or earthquake. Because of avalanche or earthquake, this lake bed itself will shift. Okay, and because of this shift, it has a tendency of flowing out, overflowing from and crossing over this unstable frontal moraine region. Okay. It can also be because of climate change impact. Basically, climate change impact will ultimately result into melting of glaciers. Okay, or susceptibility of moraine embankments. I told you that these moraine embankments are very turbid. They can move very fast. So because they are very susceptible to shift, to movement, it has an easy tendency of causing GLOF. Or the last reason for occurrence of GLOF can be construction associated damages in the areas. For example, let's say if we are building a 6-lane, 5-lane highways in upper areas of Uttarakhand, okay, because GLOF was faced in Uttarakhand also in 2013. Okay, post which we have undertaken major development of construction activity in upper areas of Uttarakhand. So because of this construction activity, the area becomes vulnerable. The balance between soil and the forest ecosystem would be lost because you either undertake deforestation or the soil becomes open to rain. Okay, so which makes the soil easily movable. Okay, because of which it can lead to GLOF. So construction associated damages make the area more vulnerable to shift. Okay, which can cause GLOF. So what is the impact? As we have seen in the case of Sikkim or in 2013 Uttarakhand floods, it causes immense loss of life and property. And now what will be the extent of it also it depends upon whether it is a GLOF or combined with a cumulonimbus rainfall or with a excessive amount of rainfall in a short period of time. So depending upon the scale of disaster, will it lead to life and loss of life and property, and the extent of it will be defined accordingly. Plus, it can also cause agricultural damage. Matlab, it will lead to agricultural losses in any area in the valley region. Plus, it also affects the protected areas. So, it will affect not only the protected areas, the habitat plus the animals, the flora and fauna in these protected areas also. Okay. Plus, transport and communication lines are jammed because there is overflowing of a river. Okay, so it will block all the roadways. It will break the roads, break the communication lines, which will create havoc in already present disaster region. Okay, so these are some of the impact of GLOF. Now, what does NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, what does NDMA says? How are we getting prepared for this disaster? And once the disaster happens, what will be the actions undertaken? So, NDMA says that we will have to undertake a risk assessment. So, zone mapping, whether it is under zone 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that of GLOF. So, NDMA has done this for earthquake zone mapping also. It has also done this for GLOF. So, whether this area is coming under zone 1 or 2 or 3, depending upon how much we predict occurrence of GLOF in an area. Okay, so this zone mapping must be done related to GLOF. Plus, NDMA guideline also says that we will have to make use of increased use of technology. So what is this SAR? This is synthetic aperture radar. Synthetic aperture radar is an image generation radar. It generates images, and this SAR should be used in generating the water bodies, images of water bodies. So, as soon as there is an increase in the size of water body, immediately we will come to know that these areas are susceptible to GLOF or any kind of flooding for that matter. So, we can get that area prepared. So, that is the use of synthetic aperture radar. Okay. Plus, NDMA guideline also talks about early warning system. So, let's say now we know that an area is susceptible to flooding. So, there should be an early warning system. We need to evacuate this entire area. At least the loss of life can be prevented. Plus, coding of construction activities. So, let us say an area is under zone 1. So, what should be the maximum amount of construction activity allowed in zone 1? What should be the maximum amount of construction activity allowed in zone 2? So, in that case, zone wise construction activity should be limited or allowed, and that is known as coding. Okay, this has also been carried out by NDMA. Plus, capacity building in disaster relief. So, basically under this we are getting hold of the local people and training them as volunteers. So, they will be acting at the time of disaster. Once the disaster has occurred, we will seek help from them in disaster relief. Okay. So, these are the rules under NDMA. This must be followed in letter and spirit. Okay, these are the NDMA guidelines which must be followed in letter and spirit to reduce, rather risk assessment, risk prevention and risk preparedness. These three things will be catered to if we are following this in letter and spirit. Okay, so that can be your way forward. Now with that we come to the end of this topic. I wish you all the very best and thank you so much.